I'm here at the Great Philadelphia Comic-Con with well-known actor Ian Beattie.
Hi there.
Thank you for speaking with me.
You're very welcome.
So I'd like to start from the beginning. How did you get the bug for acting? Where did it start?
Well, a friend of my father, believe it or not, owned a circus in Northern Ireland, and he took me there one day, and my father's friend, Jim Beck, painted a clown's face on me and said, "Would you like to be a clown?" I said, "I'd love to be." Mm-hmm. So he opened the curtain and threw me out in front of 2,000 people, and I did that for 4 years, every summer, around Northern Ireland with a circus. Mm-hmm. And that's where I really got bitten by the bug. And after that, it was just school plays. I went to college and studied law. But I always wanted to be an actor, so once I'd finished a law degree and qualified as a barrister, then I went straight to drama college in London in 1989, and that was the start of it.
Okay. So what were your first acting gigs?
Mostly theatre. I mean, I spent a couple of years in LA trying to sort of snag work here and there. Did a couple of theatre jobs in LA, and then back home to Belfast again in 1992-93. Started picking up some theatre work in Northern Ireland. Also the very odd television gig. My first TV gig, as far as I can remember, was The Hanging Gale, starring future Doctor Who Paul McGann and his three brothers. Mm-hmm. And then a gig here, a gig there. And then I got the big movie from Oliver Stone, Alexander, and that would have been about 15 years ago. So that was the first big one where I felt like my career was moving in the path I wanted it to move in. Mm-hmm. But there's no doubt about it, the luckiest day I ever had as an actor was the day I snagged the role of Ser Meryn Tranth in Game of Thrones. Mm-hmm. And that was a game changer. That was a real game changer. Suddenly I was getting into rooms that I'd never been in before. Mm-hmm. And that really sort of elevated me up to the next level, I believe you call it.
Mm-hmm. So how did anywhere along the process did you change the way you acted or approached the skill?
I'm not sure. I think experience teaches you a fair bit. You know, the more you get in front of a camera, and I was very grateful to be in Alexander because I spent so much time on a very big movie in front of the camera, and you know, you learn from experience. And I suppose, you know, you start to get good at the job eventually with a certain amount of time. And by the time Game of Thrones came along, I was pretty much had a good idea of what I was doing in front of the camera. Mm-hmm. But it is experience that teaches you. A bad experience is just as valuable as a good experience because, you know, you learn from it. Mm-hmm. I don't ever think I have changed my approach in too much of a sense. I've always been a reasonably intense actor, and I've always been an actor who does the research, not just into a character or into the traits of a character I'm playing, but also the accent. I think is very important, you know, to get right, if you like. So, you know, I've tried to work as hard as I possibly can. I've been lucky enough to do a couple of roles where I'm playing a real life character. I've done that 3 or 4 times. So again, the research is important. If it's a modern day character, try and find film, video, anything you have, interviews of the character you're playing to get the nuances right. If it's a historical character, you know, read the history, read the books.
So off recording, we had discussed how much you are into history.
Yes, indeed.
So I'm curious, are there any historical roles you've been trying to reach out for specifically? Or
as an actor, unfortunately, you know, you go where you're asked to go. So I do whatever audition comes along. Whatever audition comes along, I will go for. Having said that, the times you're lucky enough to get an audition for a historical character, I really, you know, there's a real desire to get that role, to play that role, because I do enjoy it. I remember the role I played in Alexander, for example. He was one of Alexander's generals, and there was a book written on him. So I was able to read the book, get a true flavour of the character I was playing. When you go that far back into history, you're obviously reading the historian's idea of what that character was. Right. But certainly the tagline for me when I was playing Antigonus was, the man died at the age of 80 on the battlefield with a sword in his hand. And I think that pretty much captured the character. He also had lost an eye during a previous battle in his younger days. And it was you know, taken out with a crossbow bolt, and apparently he pulled it out and fought on. So, you know, those were the sort of glimpses into his character that I was given that I hope I brought to the performance.
So I want to ask about the acting process. What's your favorite part of acting?
I'm always as prepared as I possibly can be when I walk on set, and there's no doubt about it, my love is for film and television. I love a film set, I love a television set. I really feel very, very much at home there. To be as prepared as possible the moment the camera turns on, and also I would like to think of myself as a pretty good director's actor.
Okay.
I get guidance from the director whenever possible because that's the man with the vision. I am in playing a role in that vision. So I want to make sure we're always on the same page. I think that's a very, very important part of the process. And I remember Gabriel Burnham, the Irish actor, really summed it up for me when he said when you're playing a role or when you're playing a character, it's vital to find the truth of what that character's saying and make it your truth so that the audience will believe it's the truth.
Yeah.
And I think that's a very, very important part of the process that I try as hard as possible to work on.
Now, I think you like wearing the costumes too. You mentioned wearing the armor.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. I mean, I think a costume can be such a vital part of a role. Clothes maketh the man, I'm sure is an expression that has been said somewhere in the past or in the future. Certainly when I put the suit of armour on, both in the film Alexander, when I wore the outfit in various historical dramas, the Tudors, Vikings, I was all in those. It was a very, very important part of the character. You suddenly assumed the role of the costume. The costume put you in that place, and I think it's a very, very important component.
So, as far as your inspirations, what's your general inspiration when you approach acting?
I'm inspired by other actors, other directors. I'm inspired by people whose work I see and think, oh my goodness, that is effortless, that is incredible, and I know so much effort has gone into making that effortless. People ask me often who my favourite actor is, and I can never give them an answer. I have 1,000 favourite actors. I have 2,000 favourite actors because I know so many actors and actresses who are so incredibly good at their jobs that you just can't take your eyes off them when they're on screen. And I have been fortunate enough to work with some of them, which has been just a privilege.
Now, is there anything, since you've worked in some fantasy as well, is there anything in science fiction or fantasy, any media that has inspired you?
I think, to me, the inspiration comes from the script, from the story, and the better the script, the better the story, the better I believe the production is going to be. Certainly in any historical any historical project that I've been in, I think realism, I think finding the accuracy of the time that you're playing in is important because it puts you in that place where you can perform your role accordingly. But I'm constantly inspired by seeing other actors, watching the work of other directors and thinking, oh my goodness, I want to do that. That constantly keeps me hungry. To be in a production, to be a part of a production, no matter how small a part you are or how small a role you're playing, but to be in a production that has so much quality is for me one of the reasons why I do this.
So you mentioned how much research you do and how you really get into the role. Is there anything else special about how you rehearse? Something unique to you, maybe?
I don't believe so. I mean, every project is different. Every director is different. The actors that you're working with are different. So everything, if you like, is a fresh and new experience. Yes, there are certain things that you're ready for. You're ready for the camera to roll. You're prepared. That's always extraordinarily important. But you're also prepared to take in what other people will tell you, what the director might want you to go in a different direction. So you're prepared to adapt. You're prepared to change what you have pre-prepared. And I think that's an important part of the process as well. If you're fluid, if you're prepared to be fluid, and if you're prepared to adapt accordingly, then I think you're employable, quite frankly. Because it is a business. You want to be there to do the best job you possibly can. And if you do the best job you possibly can and it's a good job, then you get employed again.
So, kind of a whimsical question. When you were a child, was there any superpower or tech device that you wanted?
I always wanted to fly. But then when I was an adult, it turned out I was afraid of heights. So I think flying is now off. I think I'll just take the X-ray eyes or something. I love the superheroes. I always did. I still do now. But it is fantasy. I think the real heroes are the people who inspire me, are the people of courage, people of valor, people who do good deeds, people who change this world for the better. They're my heroes now.
No, I get that. As far as superheroes, I'm curious if what superhero might you want to play? Is there one out there?
There are probably 20 out there. There are probably 30 out there. But as a kid, I loved Batman.
Oh, okay.
I absolutely loved Batman. And then as a teenager, I got into the comic 2000 AD.
Oh, yeah.
I really liked Judge Dredd. I'm sorry. I just thought Judge Dredd was fantastic, and I still do.
Oh, yeah.
And Karl Urban, I have to say, was my favorite Judge Dredd. I thought he was fantastic in the role.
Oh, yeah.
I would love to have played Judge Dredd. I would love to have got on that motorbike.
Oh,
so
yeah.
that's probably my number one. That's my draft.
Judge Dredd is awesome. Okay, so is there any role that you haven't played yet that you'd really like to play?
I don't think so, in the sense that there are a million roles I would like to play. There's always a role out there you think, I would be really good in that. I could really, really do that. There's so many job opportunities where for example, I've got down to the last two, and I didn't get down to the last one, and there is a disappointment to that, because you're always looking for the next role, and the nature of our profession is you could be unemployed, and then 2 weeks later you're in the biggest project ever, which is wonderful. I've come very close to a couple of jobs now over the last year, and I was disappointed I didn't get them. I got down to the last two for a small role in Justice League, which would have been fantastic, but unfortunately they opted to go a slightly younger direction. There you go, these things happen. But just to even be in the room for projects like that gives you a real buzz and makes you hungrier to get the next one. I like diversity, so every role is a challenge, and every role is a challenge for people to say that's not him up there acting, that's the character.
Right.
If the audience spots you acting, then you're in trouble.
Yeah.
But if the audience just takes the story and believes your role, then you're doing your job. And I'm constantly hungry, constantly looking for new challenges, and available.
Yeah. So when you mentioned being afraid of heights, it just kind of can you talk to any little incidents where that might that kind of got in the way of
the last day on Alexander, we were up on top of this basically on top of this mountain, and we were praying to this statue, and it was a long shot, and my character had one eye, so my balance wasn't going on too well that day. And I looked to my right and I looked down, and it was a 200-foot drop, and there was no safety railing, and I thought, oh my God. So when the first AD finally got up there and he said, oh my God, get a safety rail here. I said, yeah, get a safety rail there right now. That was a bit dicey, I have to tell you. But, I think if you're afraid of heights, and if you're lucky enough that your character's afraid of heights, I certainly showed the fear that day, so that was all right.
So that's all I have. Do you have any final thoughts or words?
To other actors out there, especially the younger guys and girls that are coming up now, don't believe them when they tell you no. Don't ever lose your belief. Stay hungry, believe in yourself, and do not take no for an answer. Persistence does pay. And in the meantime, while you're waiting for that role, practice, practice, practice. Practice your craft. Learn a speech. Learn a bit of dialogue. Do it in front of yourself. Video yourself. Find ways to make yourself better, and you'll get there.
Okay, cool. Well, thank you for speaking with me.
Thank you very much indeed. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you.
If you like this podcast, please support me by following me on Instagram at Chris Alvarez Sci-Fi, on Facebook under Chris Alvarez WLC, and on my YouTube channel, which is also Chris Alvarez WLC. You've probably heard the podcast through iTunes, but if you haven't, please subscribe to this podcast on iTunes or Stitcher by searching for the name Creating Sci-Fi and Fantasy, an Inside Look. And remember that my name has no H. It's C-R-I-S. Thank you, and keep imagining the future.